Okay, let's go. All right, so let's close our eyes and bring our awareness to our physical body. Sense and feel what is going on. As soon as you close your eyes, there's often a body part that just kind of comes into your awareness, into your consciousness. And so just go there and bring your awareness there. Tune into how you are sitting today. Tune into your breath. Take a minute to be still and present. And bring your hands to your heart. You can either think of 3 things that you're grateful for today or 3 things that went well in your day. Kind of the same thing. And when you're ready, bring your hands down to your lap and slowly open your eyes. And bring your legs out in front in Dandasana. Be on the edge of your block and find your neutral pelvis. Lift your breastbone up. Push your hands down. You can push them down into your block if you're sitting on it. So you get more length through the side body. And the theme continually has been this lifting up of the front body, drawing down into the back body, making sure you're not bringing your ribs forward. And then turn your palms out and inhale and lift your arms up over your head and get even higher and taller. Lift, lift, lift. Think of your spine coming in and lifting up. And then exhale back to the heart and bring the soles of your feet together in Baddha Konasana, butterfly pose. You can come off your block if that feels better for you. Or if you need the block to help the pelvis stay neutral or lean, even if you're going to lean forward, that you're not going to be rounding through the waist. So push the feet together. Push your knees out really nice and wide. Connect with your baby toes. And push your elbows or your some part of your arm down onto your legs and push your legs back up as you come forward. And then come back up and use your hands to bring your legs together and come back into Dandasana. And this time, inhale, lift arms up and grab your thumbs, push your thumbs away from each other. Feel that engagement of the upper body and twist a little bit to the right. So you're twisting just through the rib cage, hips aren't moving. Come back to the center and twist a little bit to the left. And come back to the center. Good. And exhale, release. Come into Adho Mukha Virasana, toes together, knees nice and wide. Not too wide. I say nice and wide, but not too wide that you're sinking too far in the middle. You want to be able to feel the sides of your body on your inner thighs. Take the arms out in front. Push your hands down into the floor. Draw your tailbone down towards the floor. So we're lengthening through the back body. We're pushing our hands down into the floor and isometrically even drawing them away from each other to open up under the armpit, to lengthen the side body, to lengthen our whole back. Draw the belly in and up. Spread your fingers as wide as you can. Then walk your hands back and come up to sitting. Interlock your fingers through your knuckles. Draw the thumbs together and inhale and lift up. So again, think of the spine coming forward and up. Get lots of length through the side body. Try to bring your inner elbows together. Remember, the more you bring the tips of your shoulder blades into the body, the more you'll be able to lift the chest. And then exhale and release, and whatever finger's on the top, take it to the bottom and do the same thing. Inhale up. Get tall. Again, always trying to figure out, listening to your body, figuring out what's going on in your body. And then exhale and release. Good. We will use the ball, we'll come up to standing and we'll use the ball underneath our feet. So just do a little kind of working on the fascial tissue. Work right into the arch of your foot. Work right to the outside edge. Really give it a good little workout here. Getting all that fascial tissue to release. And then slide the ball over the balls of your feet and push down with your toes. So you're stretching across the foot, stretching the length of the foot. Take the tops of the toes and push them back and your heel forward. Very important for strengthening the arch of the foot. Good. And then do a little bit more. Work here and really dig in. See what's tender, see what needs some work. Okay, with that foot, just move slightly away from your ball. You're going to do a little circles around your big toe. So grind your, rest on your big toe and do a little circle around the foot. What you might find is that you can feel the top of the foot being tight. You can go both ways, by the way. Working around that toe joint. And then drag that foot behind you. And you're pushing down and you're drawing forward. And again, just feeling that the tops of the feet are how tight they are. If we've been wearing heavy shoes, boots, the top of the foot is quite tight. Maybe not as much this year because we've had a little bit milder weather, and then just drag your foot forward. Good, and let's do the same thing on the other side. So again, just working that fascial tissue. And then rolling the ball under the metatarsals, under the balls of the feet, sorry, more specifically. Go back enough so that the backs of your toes can push into the ball. And again, this is really good if you have Morton's neuroma or any of those kind of compression type things, if your feet are coming in too close together. Also hammer toe. So you're pushing down and you're dragging the heel towards the foot and the foot towards the heel. Good, and then a little bit more. So really getting in there, getting into the arch of the foot. And then again, moving the ball part away, just doing a little bit of toe work. So doing a rotation over the toe, doing a circle. Both ways. And then again, dragging the foot behind you. Isometrically drawing forward and feeling the top of the foot. Sorry, lost my balance there. Yeah, just join along. Okay. All right, and then standing in Tadasana. Spread your toes really nice and wide. Try to get as much space between your big toe and your little toe. This is like something you can do at home too. Like just take an elastic band, put the elastic band around your toes, and then work your little toes away. And you're just trying to get those toes to not go this way. Basically, you want them to go outward. Your feet should look kind of like your hands, like this, not like this. All right, and then find Tadasana. So whatever distance you want your feet away from each other, find Tadasana. Shift your weight onto your heels, draw your pubic bone and your tailbone, lift the upper body, draw the back body down, turn your palms out and inhale and lift your arms up over your head. Get really nice and tall through the side body. You know, when I say tall, it's not only about this, it's the side. We're trying to lift up, put more space between our hips and our rib, which is better for our internal organs. And then you can do a little side bend, and then come back to the center and do another little side bend. And come back to the center, do a little twist. Twisting the rib cage, come back to the center, twist the opposite way. Good. Come back to the center, little back bend. And we learned last week that we're really just back bending from the shoulder blade area, from the thoracic spine. And we're keeping the weight back and the tailbone down. And then come back to the center. We'll go right into a forward bend. Bend your knees, place your abdomen on your thighs. Take your feet whatever distance you would like them to be. Now, you want to make sure that your legs are active. You're pushing the mound of the big toe down. The quads are working. Your hamstrings aren't going to stretch if your quads aren't engaged. So you want to really engage them and see if you can straighten the legs and feel where most of the stretch is. It should be at the belly of the muscle, not up near the sit bone. But you might want to eventually straighten your legs. And then inhale and come halfway up and find a nice straight back. And then just walk your feet a little bit wider than you normally do. And then exhale, come back into that forward bend. And work that as well. And shift your weight a little bit from side to side. Left to right. And then again, see, what does it feel like? Can you straighten your legs? And can you engage your thighs? You need to take that inner thigh back. Lift the inner groins up. And then again, come halfway up. And then take your feet a little wider apart again and forward bend again. So again, if you feel like your abdomen is not on your thighs, then please bend your knees. Keep your knees bent. At some point, try maybe to straighten your legs and see how it goes. Push through the outer heels, lift up the inner groins. Come halfway up. And then inhale, come all the way up to standing. Bring your arms up over your head, step your feet together. And then come back. Good. Take your feet really nice and wide into a wide leg forward bend. I like to take my heels to the edge of my mat because then I can see if my butt is actually going behind me and my sit bones are not staying in line with my heels, therefore, if that's happening. But if you have a pretty good idea of what you're doing, then you don't need to do that, but I like it to do that. We're gonna hinge at the hips. Place your hands on the waist for this first one. Bring your elbows really nice and back. And exhale and come forward with a nice straight back. You're hinging at the hips. You're pushing your thighs back. And see how that feels. You should feel a stretch both in the inner groins as well as in the hamstrings. So if that's not happening, it could be because your feet are too close together. Keep tilting the pelvis, lifting the sit bones up. Now isometrically draw your feet away from each other. So you're pushing outward, and see if that helps you go a little further in the pose. And from your hands on your waist, you can take them to the floor. And again, look behind you. And if you're at the edge of your mat and your butt is on the tile, over the tile, you need to come forward. And most people have a hard time with this. Most people's butts are further back. Really push your quadriceps into your femur bones, and then your femur bones into your hamstrings. So you're pushing back with the femur bones. Okay. Come up halfway and then all the way up with a nice straight back, and then bend your knees and step your feet forward. Find Tadasana. Okay, take a nice wide stance again. So turn your palms up and bring your arms up over your head. You're going to come down with a nice straight back again into this forward bend, right? And this time your hands are going to come right to the floor. You're going to try to maintain a straight back for as long as you can. And then when you've gone as far as you can and you've lengthened as much as you can, then you take your hands to the floor, you bend your elbows back, and you allow your upper back to round. Sit bones are up, quads are pushing back. And again, if your abdomen's not on your thighs, feel free to bend your knees here. Breathe while you're in the pose. Now, come halfway up and turn your feet out a little bit, and we're going to take our left knee over the left foot. And then you're going to come back the other way and take your right knee over your right foot. Go from side to side and see if you can eventually, you're welcome to lift the heel up, if you can get your butt down all the way, and you can lift this other foot off the floor. So you're going to look kind of like this, as if you're doing that, what do they call that, like that Russian dance, you know? Just go with what you can manage at this point. When your knee is over the foot, it's going in line, the kneecap is in line with the second and third toe, and you're just walking from side to side and hanging out when you get to that side, so you feel a little bit of hanging out in that stretch. Let's do one more on each side. And then come back. Keep your feet where they are and come on up to standing. And we're going to be doing this, what we call a goddess pose, actually. And again, make sure your knees are tracking over your feet. Make sure your buttocks is not sticking too far out. You want to bring the tailbone in and the pubic bone down. And you can even put your hands on your inner thighs and push your hands out and your knees in. And see if you can drop the buttocks down. Keep the chest up. So it's like a squat pose, only you're sitting on a chair. And then come on out. We'll go back down. And this time we're going to shift our weight, lift the heel up on the one side, shift the weight, lift the heel up on the other side, shift, 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 shift. Good. And come back down a little bit, hang out here again. Thighs should be talking to you at this point. And then come on back up. Good. And walk your feet in towards each other. Find Tadasana. All right. So if you know that you need some help with something underneath your feet in order for you to get to squat pose, then roll up your blanket. If you are inclined to just drop down into a squat without, you don't need the blanket. So, and if you have difficulty with this, use more blanket, not less. Okay, so this is all about tight calves and even tight Achilles as well. So we'll just do the traditional pose first, where our feet are facing forward. Then we're going to go out with a wider stance and just see how that feels. So you're going to inhale up, get really nice and tall, lift your front body, draw your back body down, and then again, so important that your knees are tracking over the middle of your feet. So when you come down, go slow, see if you can get those knees to stay right over the feet and come down into a squat pose. Once you're here, you want all the weight on your heels. So if you feel like immediately getting, like you're getting shin splints or that you're perched forward, you haven't got it. You got to get more under your heels, blocks, a better blanket, a firmer blanket.
So my heels are touching the blanket.
You need a bigger blanket. That's right. Not only should your heels be touching, you should be able to rest all your weight on them. So I could literally lift my toes up because I'm not perching forward. Okay, so that's what you need, is you need to figure out what do you need. Some people have a problem with the knee, and then they need a second blanket behind the knees. This is quite a nice way to do a squat, even if you don't need it behind your knees, because it really stretches or squeezes your calves in there, so it's kind of nice. It's also a way to be sitting in the pose.
It's supposed to make it easier.
Yeah, it does make it easier when you put the blanket in between your knees. So, you know, a lot of people don't need it, so you can just go here. But when you're sitting here, it should feel fairly comfortable. You know, if it's a lot of effort, then you need more underneath your heels. Okay, so now you're going to push yourself up. You're going to push yourself up by pushing into the feet. Good. And then you're going to take the legs wide and turn the feet out, because again, we want the knees always tracking over, and we're going to come down into this kind of a squat. A lot of people find this easier than the other, like with feet facing forward. And again, I like to push my elbows into my knees and my knees into my elbows. And if you have knee issues, and you know, like at home or anywhere, like you can always lie down and bring your knees in towards your chest for a like sort of a reverse squat on the floor. Squatting is very good for the pelvic floor, and many people believe that we should be squatting every day as they do in other countries, because they don't have the same incontinence, they don't have the same hip problems that we have, knee issues. So again, your weight should be on your heels, your butt should be like almost as if you're going to go backwards. And like I said, I like to push my elbows out and my knees in. Just a little twofer there. And then again, when we come out, push your legs down to come on up to standing and find Tadasana. And then just for fun, because we're here, we'll take our blanket and we'll put the balls of our feet on it and just stretch our calves a little bit before we go further into a forward bend again. Did anybody watch the Oscars? Did anybody see the? No, John. I was gonna say that the nude guy, John Cena. Well, I mean, of course, I mean, all I could see is like, wow, his legs were so toned, but didn't they look almost deformed? Because I think he's overworked some muscles and underworked something. They didn't look like, yeah, his legs did not look normal. Well, you could see of them because he had those of you who didn't see it, he came out nude. It was supposed to be a little stint, and then, yeah, he just had a piece of the envelope. He had the envelope here. Yeah. Yeah, Ryan Gosling was always good. Yeah. So let's try to go into a forward bend with our feet on the blanket. So bend your knees, squat, get the abdomen on the thighs. And now you want your hands on something. So if you don't have your hands on your legs and you put them on the floor, if you can't reach the floor, then you need to get your blocks. And then work your sit bones up and your heels down. Activate those inner groins. On the blanket, you might be pronating. In other words, you might be letting your arches drop. So lift the arches up. And then just shift back and take your blanket out. And then you're in a normal forward bend. Again, kneecaps up, thighs back, interlock, or not interlock, isometrically draw your feet away from each other. Lift the sit bones up really nice and high. Feel the tilt of the pelvis. Find your Uttanasana. That's forward bend is Uttanasana. And then inhale, come halfway up. All the way up to standing. And exhale back to the heart. Good. I'm just going to turn my mat the other way. If you need to turn your mat, no, I think you guys are all good. Your mats are all good. I'm just going to turn my mat. But if you need your blocks, is what I was going to say, or a blanket, because we're going to go into lunge pose next via a sun salutation. So have some blocks. I bought more of these heavy duty blocks. And I know a lot of you don't use these ones, but these are much nicer if you're doing things where you have to lean on, so that's why I bought a couple more sets of them. I think there's 4 sets there. They're heavy to carry around, yeah. But like to use them here, again, when you're doing lunge pose or that type of thing, they're more stable than the sponge blocks. Okay, find Tadasana. Inhale, bring your hands to your heart. This is kind of like everything week. And shift your weight back onto your heels. And then drop your hands and inhale out. And exhale, forward fold. Come halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. We're going to step back into downward dog. So take a big step back. One foot and then the other, or some people like to jump. And then bend your knees because it's your first downward dog. And shift your sit bones up. Now we were learning last week about externally rotating the upper arm. Remember when we were doing on the stuff on the chair, we externally rotated the upper arm. So this is what's got to happen here in your downward dog as well. And then you can try bending one knee and pushing through the heel of the opposite foot. Eventually we would like our heels to touch the floor in downward dog, but not to compromise our back or our spine to do that. Good. Now you're going to take your right leg, bring it up behind you, and swoosh it through into a right foot lunge. Swoosh it through. And drop your back foot. So, like before blocks and I was telling them today, like about how when I first started yoga, there was no props. There wasn't even yoga mats. So, you'd be down on the floor here and your chest is kind of resting on your leg. The nice thing about a prop is that if you bring your hands up a little bit more, you can get more length in that front body. And that's really beneficial, I think. And also, not only can you get more length in the front body, so from my pubic bone to my breastbone, I can bring up, but I can also draw down the back body. And then you can even go up even higher. And this is what's nice about using a block, is that you got that length in the front body. Isometrically push your front foot into the floor and drag it back. and isometrically draw the back foot, push it in and slide it through as if you're trying to slide your foot all the way through the floor. It's going to come up and it's going to hit you in the nose. And then let's straighten that leg, and you can walk your blocks back if that helps you have a little bit more. And draw the kneecap up and push the right hip back. And feel the hamstring on that leg. So again, we're trying not to bend at the waist. We're trying to just hinge at the hips and come up forward over that leg. So your head should be at your shin, head to shin pose. That's what actually Uttanasana stands for. And then bend your front knee again. Bring your blocks under your shoulders again. What am I trying to curl your back toes and inflate the back leg. So you're in full lunge. And the heel comes back and the knee comes forward, and then you isometrically close your feet together as if you're trying to close a pair of scissors. And again, try to get long in the front body. Take the shoulder blades back. And then we'll straighten that front leg. You can leave the foot down or you can draw it up. See what feels better to you or what you get out of that. Bend the front knee. Drop the back leg again. I'm going to take our left hand and swing it across. But again, you're not moving your head. You're just taking the arm across. You can take your right hand to your hip and try to stack. Or if you want to go down lower and bring the hands together in prayer pose, and then turn the fingers towards your head and try to get this twist going. So, either way works well. What you want to try to do is keep the top of your head in line with the top of with your tailbone. So you're twisting and you're not bending in a C shape. And then come on back. Good. And then take this back foot and you're going to bring it forward towards the other foot, back into your forward bend. Yeah, and you were there for a little bit, so that could be interesting. And again, really activate the quads to make sure that the hamstrings are opening up. You can grab your big toes if you like with your fingers and bring the upper body closer to the legs if that's available to you or feels like the right thing to do at this time. And then come halfway up. Go back into the forward bend again. And then come all the way up with a nice straight back. And then exhale back to the right. And then drop your hands, inhale up. Exhale, forward fold. Come halfway up. And then exhale, forward fold again. Step back into downward dog. Now, just to make sure that we have the right distance between our hands and our feet, come forward into a plank. And if you should be in perfect distance here for a plank. So in other words, your butt shouldn't be up in the air because you don't have enough space. And then go back into your downward dog. Turn your heels outward. Lift your sit bones up. Isometrically draw your legs away from each other and take your inner groins and draw them back towards the back of the room or the wall behind you. It's almost like you're spinning your legs a little bit. And then bring your left leg up and you're going to whoosh it forward into lunge pose and you're going to drop your back knee. And just sense and feel how that feels and how the left side might be different than the right. Push your back foot down into the floor and pretend you're trying to swing it through the floor, and push your front foot down and try to bring your heel towards your buttocks. So you're trying to kick your foot up towards your buttocks. Get long in the front body. Shoulder blades down, breastbone up, and then straighten that front leg. Again, drawing the kneecap up, pushing through the ball of the foot and the heel, and dragging the femur bone back into the hip socket. You should feel your hamstring talking to you a little bit. And then bend that front knee, come back into the lunge pose, and curl your back toes under and inflate the back leg. Again, if you're sinking down into the blocks, push into your blocks, get the front body to lengthen. Isometrically draw your feet together. Heel back, knee forward. A lot of counter actions happening here. All right, and then you're going to straighten your front leg. And again, experiment. Foot up, foot down, kneecap up, dragging the foot isometrically back. Lunge pose again. What did I do next? Who remembers? It's a test. Oh yeah, we did a twist. Knee down then. Yes, twist. Thank you. All right, so you're going to swing that arm across. Stack your left shoulder onto your right. So you can keep your hand on your thigh or your hip, or you can bring the elbows or the hands together and have the elbow at the outside. I like to turn the hands towards my head. Helps you lean back more. Feel that twist through the rib cage, through the shoulders. Breathe. And then slowly release. All right. Take that back foot and bring it forward into a forward bend again. This time, just walk your feet a little bit wider than you might have them. Bend your knees and grab your elbows. And just let your body sway a little bit from side to side. Abdomen's on the thighs, just trying to lengthen. Let your head, the top of your head should be pointing towards the floor. And only straighten your legs more if you can keep that connection to the abdomen to the thighs. Good. Come halfway up. Come all the way up to standing. Bring your feet closer together if that feels more comfortable for you. Get tall. Interlock your fingers. Push through the index finger. Look up and do that little back bend again if that is available to you. And then we're going to exhale, forward fold again. Whew. Step back this time into plank pose. Breastbone forward, heels back. You can always use forearm plank if your wrists are sore. And then drop to your knees, bring your hips back to your heels into an extended child's pose. And then we're going to bring your hands back and bring your right foot forward into lunge pose again. And then you're going to take your block to the inside. So your block's on the outside, take it to the inside and walk your foot out to the very edge of your yoga mat. And you're going to come forward with the hips. And see if you can and you might need to keep them on the high side to do this. You want to see if you can bring your forearms down. So we're doing the ankle and knee stay in alignment. The foot's out more than normal, past the midline. And you're going to see if you can come down. And again, try to lengthen the front body. And use your hands for support. Come on up and change legs. Leg to the outside as far as you can comfortably get it to go. See if you can get your elbows down. Keeping that knee on top of the ankle, but out wider.
It says mostly 19 stretch or?
This is for the hip. Hips could be psoas. Could be inner groin for some people. And use your hands for support. And bring both legs back and come up to kneeling. Okay, take your feet a little wider apart. We're going to go into Virasana. Now, again, if you have knee issues, you're welcome to do a lying down or a standing variation, but you're going to take your hands on your calf, flatten them, draw them out to the side, and sit in between your legs. Feet are facing straight back, and if you need to have something underneath, if your butt's not touching the ground or you have ankle issues, that the ankles don't flatten down to the floor, then you need to put blankets under your ankles, blankets under your hips. And then if it feels available to you to lean back, go ahead and do this. I think we did this last week actually too when we were doing back bends, right? So I was telling you I like to really tilt my pelvis here and really get nice stretch in the quads. And if it feels good, you can even come all the way down. You just go as far as you can go. I hit a chair. So again, the variation, if you are finding this difficult, is to do a side lying pose. You can lie on your side and grab the buttocks and the heel, or a standing variation. Whatever it takes for you to just stretch the quad and that psoas. And then make sure you do the other side. For some people, it's like just lying down in bed, just relaxing. Okay, and then come slowly out. All right, we're going to go into pigeon pose, and we're going to use the chairs. So it's a little bit tricky, I'm going to admit this, to find the right place. And I find it's better to have a blanket on top. Okay, now, if you don't have a chair at home that you can do this on, so pigeon pose is basically the pose where we take our leg out to the side here. So you're going to, now, so what's nice is to not, well, you could, well, I don't know. You can go with your knee inside the hoop, but you can also keep your foot outside of the hoop, and then the other leg is going to come back like this. And what we're working on is leveling the hips here. Okay, so I have my knee on behind the hoop, and then I use the hoop of the chair to lift up nice and tall. And there's a tendency for the back leg hip to go back this way, but what we're working on is bringing the hip forward. Okay, so you should not have pain in the knee when you do this. So if you do have pain in the knee, we need to come up with an alternative variation, which is usually lying on the back. Okay, so just, do you want me to turn around the other way and just show you what I'm doing? So that, and I think at home, you guys are probably needing to see a side variation. So I'll just bring you guys over here. I hope I didn't make you dizzy. Okay. So basically what I'm doing is I'm sliding my knee out to the side and it's hitting the hip, and then I push my back foot back like I'm doing lunge pose. See how this hip, I want it to sit down. This leg has to externally rotate. So the knee usually hurts because the hip isn't allowing this to happen. So that's why you would have to do a different variation. So you're going to push through. Now, if I just experiment here, if I took my knee to the outside, you might find this a little bit more comfortable, and then you could, so either variation can work. I find there's more pressure on my knee actually in this variation. And then I have my leg a little bit to the side, but it's still back. The whole idea is to get the tailbone down and the pubic bone up and get length in the front body when you're using the chair.
It just seems easier.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna say to you today, like, yes, do what feels best for your knee.
Better to be behind.
Yeah, like I like it behind better for alignment's sake. Because I found that it was more pressure on my knee when I had it in through the hoop. You just up higher, so it could be available to more people. But yeah, we're gonna do the floor next. So yeah, well, this is very much glute here. So I do this on my bed. My bed's high, so my bed's up about this high, and so I'll put my leg up on the bed. You can use a countertop. You know, it's just a little bit easier. Well, my bed's high enough so that when I do this, this leg is actually like this, and then I'm up on my bed like this, right? So that's because I have a high bed. All right, do you want to change legs? Yes, please, she says. Good manners. So there's a lot of controversy in the yoga world about how the foot should go. For me, I like to flex my foot and push through the heel. Some people say that it doesn't matter. You can point the toe and all is good. I like it better. If I'm trying to bring my sit bone down, I like it much better to have the foot flexed. So I'm trying to keep my foot like this, and I'm just tilting it over instead of doing this. So you'll read all kinds of synopsis. Some people are comfortable in this pose. Yeah, so that's the whole idea. You're taking this hip that's way back there and you're bringing it forward, because when we do the next variation on the floor, you're definitely going to want that hip coming forward. And then it's all about this lifting of the front body in this variation. So I'm actually pushing down on my chair to lift my chest up. So again, the weight is more on my pelvis back here than it is on the knee. So even if I'm leaning forward. Okay, is that good? Enough of that? Enough of that? Okay. So for the next one, come down onto your block. We're going to go to cow face pose, Garandasana. No, that's the eagle pose. Goombasana. We're going to go into cow face pose. Then we'll go into another variation on pigeon pose. So this is the pose where you sit on the block because, well, mostly, I mean, if you don't need the block, you don't need the block, right? And then you bring your knee in front and then you walk. So this is a twist pose. This is twist when you have your foot like this, but you're walking the foot over to the left so that the knee sits down on top of. So you can see you need external rotation for this, right? Now, what we're discovering a lot as we study is that in yoga, a lot of people have external rotation. What they don't have is very good internal rotation. So, you know, we need to work on internal rotation as much as external rotation, but we tend to, in yoga, be very external rotation oriented. So again, sit up really nice and tall. And again, another way to go into this pose is to just come off your block, stack your knees one right on top of the other, and then sit back. And sometimes that helps you get where you need to go. If you're not, lie on your back, cross your legs and hug them into you with your arms. Yeah, so anybody who has knee issues, that's where you're going. You lie on your back, you do cross-legged position. Oops, there you go. And you hug the knees in. So similar pose, but without any pressure on your knees. Feel free to do that pose though, if that's where you're going. So then in this pose, one thing you want to do is really squeeze the inner groins together. So it's like you have put your hand in there and then you try to squeeze the inner groins. You also want to bring the outer hips in. So we're squeezing from the outside in. And then, of course, we want to sit really nice and tall. And we're going to fold forward over the legs and see if we can get the whole front body to lie down on the legs. And so again, like Lori said, you're going to feel the piriformis, you're going to feel the glutes, maybe IT bands in this pose. And if you ate a big supper, I apologize. It probably doesn't feel that good. It's probably sitting in there and going, oh, squished, being squished. And then you want to breathe and just try to release and go deeper in the pose with each exhale. Squeeze the inner thighs together. You could also squeeze the two knees together, one up, one down. And use your hands to push yourself back up to sitting and get tall. And then take the legs out in front and Dandasana. And now you have to do the opposite. This is always interesting because your left and your right side are never the same. So now I'm walking my left foot over and I'm trying to walk it as far away to the right as possible. And what you might observe is this knee up higher than the other knee was? And is it harder for you to get your knees stacked on top of each other? This reminds me of a seal, you know, you're going out like this. As I think a seal does. Okay. And sit up really nice and tall first and just experience that and see what's going on in your. So the inner thighs push together, outer hips push into the midline, top knee pushes down and the bottom knee pushes up. Breathing. You want to try to have equal weight on both hips too. There's a tendency in this pose to like hang out on your bottom leg hip like this. So you want to try to even that out. And then keeping that length in your body, see if you can come over that front leg. Hang out and breathe. Squeeze the inner groins together. Squeeze the knees. And then inhale and come on up. Good. All right. Bring your legs out in front, do a little Dandasana. All right. And we're going to come into pigeon pose. So I didn't say get a bolster, but if you want a bolster, if you know that you need a bolster, we can get one. You could also take your 2 blankets and fold them. Okay. I'll show you with and without. Actually, let me show you without first. So what we'll do is I like to go into this pose if I'm not using any props from downward dog. So I'll go into downward dog. Get that all set up. And then I bend my knee and I bring it out to the side. Okay. And then it's all about this hip coming forward, trying to even out the hips, curling my back toe under, lifting up, adjusting what I need to adjust, and then walking back. Okay, so I'm going to walk my hips back. Now, for a lot of you, you'll find either you want the foot really straight and you can't walk back that much because the knee gets in the way, or place something down so that you can bring this front leg this way. I'm giving you options here for who, and I want to keep my knee like this, my foot like this. I'm being active in the foot. I'm actually going to even stick this blanket underneath my heel, so that helps me. And then I go into the pose. And I see, can I get there from here? Okay. And then the higher you go up, the more props you use. If you want to use a bolster, 2 blankets, if you want to put your blocks underneath and then put your blanket on top, the higher you go, the less pressure, of course, is on the knee, the less pressure you're going to feel on the hip. So you have to kind of play with it a little bit. And if the other alternative to this pose is to lie down on your back and bring the leg into your body this way. So you just work in this here. So you're still getting that glute, you're still getting IT. It's a very similar pose. You can add in some isometric contractions in here or actions, and you just don't have the pressure on the knee. So you have to do what you feel is best for your knee. And then you're always lifting up and you're turning the hip forward. When you lift up, you should be able to see your foot slightly to the left of the midline. The higher up you are, the more pressure is.
My belly is resting on my heel. Is that and then the blanket under?
No, because you're, yeah. And what I was going to say, what I was just going to say is, like in this pose, ideally what you want is the knee to be out from the hip. So the foot should be about at the midline. Now, I don't have that kind of, I'm not that open. So, but my heel is on my I've got my right knee, my heel is at my left belly, so yeah.
It doesn't have to be at right angle.
Yeah, so that's better, Sean, for you. No, you don't want a right angle. You want to, well, I think because my hips are tight, it kind of look like a right angle. But eventually that's not what you want. You want the knee out more than the hip.
Right.
Yeah, it does look right. Yeah, like even if you have your knee out from your hip, ideally what they want is this leg parallel to the front of your mat, but that's still not a right angle. That's a, you know what I'm saying? Well, the heel. Not if my knee is out to the right side. You see, if it was here, this would be a right angle. My hip, my knee.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Trying to go like straight back.
Yeah, well, that's not the idea. The idea is that it's like the other pose, you're trying to walk the knee out to the side. It's literally, actually, this is a different way to get into the pose, actually. You could do butterfly pose like this. Keep this leg where it is. Swing this one around. And there you are. That's where you should be. Yeah. So now, having done it that way, I feel it more in my inner groin. Then you're trying to work. So I have to bring my foot in a little bit, not quite to the midline. And then I come over, and you can even try to come down on your elbows. I'm up high, so I need, because I have my blocks underneath me, but you can come down and rest over that leg. Kind of messy, but hopefully you're getting something out of it. You know, in the old days, the big thing is everything was about getting your foot into lotus pose. And then so many people hurt their knees, blew out their knees by doing lotus pose. That very rarely will you see anybody teaching lotus pose anymore. And that's because the ankle is torqued, right? And you have to have very open hips for your knees to go that like that. All right, should we change sides and try it on the other side? And again, try to observe what's going on because each side is different. So you might want to try that, getting into it from butterfly pose. And then just swing the other leg back. Sean's given up. Did you? Okay. So in this pose, it's interesting because like everybody likes the lying down variation where we come over, but the idea is in the full pose, you're gonna grab the back foot, right? So it's the up part that it takes some getting in there. If I'm doing this at home and I'm having difficulty, I'll use the rubber ball in the glute, and that will help. Is my gluteus maximus. When you are ready to come out, the pose that I always like to do after pigeon pose is downward dog, because I feel it opens up the back of the legs nicely and stretches the back. So I was saying earlier about this external rotation of the upper arms that we sort of practiced last week. So make sure you're getting there in your downward dog. And then, and if you have issues tonight and you want to do downward dog at the wall, that's always an option too. But let's go into downward dog and then let's walk forward into another forward bend. See where you're at with your forward bend now. If you've made any strides, lift the arches up, isometrically draw your feet away from each other, lift the sit bones up. Draw your kneecaps up, take the thighs back, really push your thighs back. Make sure that your heels and your sit bones are in alignment if you've got your legs straight. Isometrically draw your feet away from each other. Inhale, come halfway up. And then come all the way up to standing and find Tadasana. And exhale. Lift your toes up, spread them really nice and wide, and then drop them down on the floor. Try to extend your toes away from your heels. Feel the mound of the big toe. Lift one leg up for a balanced pose. Find a focal point. You can maybe do tree pose if you would like, or full tree. Tree with fallen branches, or tree. After that storm last week, there's so many, swaying tree. You can be any kind of tree you want to be. Willow. Come back to standing, and then the other side. Remember, if you push down through the mound of the big toe, not scrunch, push down. And then find Tadasana again. Drop your hands, inhale. We'll just do one last thing, which is chair pose. Sit down in your chair. Make sure your knees are over your feet. Bring your hips back. Let your body come down into your last forward bend. See what you can do about lifting the sit bones up, straightening the legs. As much as you can, keeping the abdomen thigh connection and squeezing the abdomen and thighs together. And then inhale, come halfway up again. And all the way up to standing. And exhale. So for Shavasana, what I was going to recommend was taking your blocks out in front like this, putting a blanket over those blocks, taking your second blanket and just rolling that up. That's going to go underneath the shoulder blades here. So we're going to do, the hips come very close to the blocks in Sambaddha Konasana. You'll just be able to then go like this for Shavasana and have the and then, like I said, the blanket is underneath the shoulder blades. You're going to take your hands behind your head and lengthen away and bring your head to the floor with a nice long neck. Just, you can hold your hands there, your arms there if you like, or let the head drop and even bring your arms up overhead. We'll just hang out here for a bit before we eventually just shift into Shavasana, and then you can support your knees if you want, or just take the bolsters away, whatever works well. Okay. Yeah, right. Well, just above the bra line if you're wearing a normal bra, so just on the shoulder blades. But anywhere in there, anywhere that feels good is, well, it may not feel good, actually, especially if you've been hunched over a desk all day, or, you know, it might feel like you're really opening the front body. But hang out for a few minutes. I mean, 1, 2 minutes, and just see if you can release some of that tension. So I don't know at home if you guys could see that as clearly, but it's basically Baddha Konasana with your feet on the blocks and a blanket under your shoulder blades, and just lengthening. You want your shoulder blades right on the blanket and lengthening through the back of the neck, and just hanging out here for a bit. And like literally, it'd be nice to hang out for, like I said, 2, 3, 4 minutes, and then you can shift right into Shavasana whenever you're ready. You don't have to wait for me to tell you, whatever works well for you. When you have your knees under the bolster, make sure that your heels are actually touching down on the floor. Yeah, just go a little bit there. So if your heels aren't touching the floor, either put something under or move the bolster a little bit more up towards the hip. What's also kind of nice to do from this position, the Baddha Konasana position, is to take the ball underneath and put it right in the glute area. And you can lie down on it as well and just release any lingering tension there or tightness in the glute area. Bring your awareness back to your breath. And wiggle your fingers and your toes. And stretch your arms up over your head. And point your feet. And flex them. And then bring your hands down with a great big sigh. And your knees up towards your chest. Roll gently from side to side. Roll over onto your right side. And when you're ready, slowly come up to sitting. Bring your hands to your heart. Namaste, everyone. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Monday. Yes, thank you very much. We will. We'll be. No, tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning. Yeah, first thing. So as early as we can. Jennifer is teaching in the morning. Yes. Jennifer, yeah, she's taught for you guys before. Actually, she asked me if she could do a lot of Qigong with you guys. So I said, yes, that would be a great experience for you. It's movement, kind of like Tai Chi, but not. She incorporates it into her yoga practice, so it'll be good. Yeah. Okay. Huh? The dog's coming with us. Yeah. His sisters. He's got to see his sisters. That's right. And his mom. Yeah. And then, there was 4, and so Buddy is one, and the other one we called Oreo because he had a lot of white down the front. He went to another, like I think it was her boss. Yeah. And then the 2 girls are with Roman, and yeah, he's gonna keep them. Yeah. So you're gonna have 3 big dogs. I know. And a baby. Okay, thanks guys at home. Hope all
Have a
of
great
you-
trip.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll see you
Safe travels.
next Monday.
Okay,
namaste.
bye-bye.
Bye.